Is this lighting all good, by the way? Is this? I got the ring light going here,
You,
and
you look great. You
okay,
look
great.
great.
Okay.
Welcome in, everybody. This is Unscripted. My name is Tim Lindsay. Aaron McLaughlin is here, and we have
Hello.
with us the one and only Alex Miniak. And I want to talk as much as I possibly can. That's like my life goal. And I want you guys to
Yeah.
wonder, what does he sound like? Because when you see people for the first time, connect them to the voice that you've heard, and a lot of you have probably heard his voice if you've ever been to a Padres game, if you've ever played a certain video game from Sony that we'll discuss, if you've been in the New England area listening to any form of radio over the last 20 years, stands to reason you might have heard Alex somewhere. So, Alex, thank you for joining us.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate your time. I want you to say, uh, welcome to Fenway Park, because you were one of the candidates for that job too. There's a lot, but bring us up to speed. The reason we wanted to talk to you is you are truly playing in your space where I think you're pretty happy doing what you're doing. If you think about, you spend most of your summers, this one augmented a little bit, putting on a Padres polo shirt, going up into the booth and calling games. Because Padres, you had to learn how to trill your R's. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, I roll them.
Yeah.
We are on the border with Mexico, so we have a lot of Latino influence in our market. So you got to be authentic. You got to appeal to the audience base that's out there. So I needed to do a lot of linguistic learning.
Yeah. Did
Did you hire a coach for that? How did you learn?
On the fly. Yeah.
Get the batting order and you're like, oh crap.
Years of high school Spanish,
All this
like
stuff.
Mr.
There actually are
Lakewood High
people.
School, would be very proud of me.
That's amazing.
5 years later.
Well, let's get to the point that where you and I first ran into each other years ago at can we call them Cheap Channel? I'm gonna go with Cheap Channel. You and I met years ago here in New England at a radio station, and before that, your pathway growing up in Florida. So from high school to college, like when did you know that this is something you wanted to do? And when did the pipes hit? Because there had to be a Peter Brady moment for you where it changed. Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, there was. My father and I went to an arena football game going into my freshman year of high school, and I went to buy a program, and the woman's like, "My, you have a deep voice," and I was like, really? Like, I don't know. I didn't notice it. But apparently from that moment on, that Saturday night on, I sounded like this. So 14, from my 14th year of existence on, I've sounded pretty much this way.
She recognized it, and so it was.
Yeah.
And she says, you're going to be selling programs at these games just like me. No, she didn't say that. But
you get back to your seat with your dad. You get 2 programs. You're ripping a butt. You're like, what do you want to do, Dad? Suddenly you're suddenly you're a baritone. Well, that when it happened for Aiden, our oldest, we're on I don't know. I can't remember where we were going. We might have been going to like the Cape, and it was literally happened like just the flip of a coin. He said in one voice, "When are we stopping for lunch?" And so Janine and I are talking, and then sure enough, I turned around. I'm like, "What do you guys want?" And he's like, "I don't know." Like within a conversation, and I turned to Janina. She's like, "Did you hear that?" And I have like a single tear because now the end is coming.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I didn't hear that
anymore. Yeah,
and now Cameron is turned too. But I was just wondering when that was. So for 14 for you, like suddenly, you went.
Yeah, and then I got like a size 11 foot. It all happened that year. So like that minute, I grew right out of my shoes on the spot.
Yes.
Like
Tom Hanks and Zoltar. Yes.
Yes.
That's amazing. All right. So do you pursue it at all at the high school level? Did you guys have a radio station? Was there any format like that for you at school?
So I went to a high school that was a magnet program for technology, and within that technology high school, they had a program for TV production, and the TV production segment had a relationship with the local CBS affiliate. So I was laying down soundtracks for news packages, TV packages. fluff pieces, video yearbooks, anything and everything that I could get my hand on. And I'm like, okay, I kind of like this. I like the audio aspect of this. And that kind of drove my decision to go forward in college. I originally went to the University of Florida to be an electrical engineer because I was more interested in studio design. But the math really scared me off very quickly, and I was not good at. And once I realized,
Wait a minute, I'm out.
once I realized that arithmetic was a big part of engineering, I was like, I'm going to go talk behind this thing here and go from there. And I got into radio. I started producing shows. I was running the board on the overnight for Art Bell Coast to Coast.
Yes, west of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and you know what? And that summer I did that. It was my only 4.0 semester in college. So it was meant to be. Like all these great things were happening at once. And so then I went from being behind the board to talking on the air, and I was like, this is a cool thing. And then I was really into the strategy behind programming and putting together morning shows and picking formats for music. And that's how I got into radio programming. And being on air kind of took a little bit of a back seat, because back then, and Tim, you can attest to this, you either had two career paths. Either you were going to be a morning show or you were going to be a program director if you were going to make it in radio. Everything else was kind of like you were going to bounce around and really not find any stability. So I was like, well, I'm not good enough to be on a morning show. I will be a program director. And that's kind of how I went into radio. And I have an analytical mind anyway. So the programming and the strategy behind that was really something that intrigued me to begin with.
Yep. So that this is already happening, and this is all taking place at University of Florida.
Yeah.
You're already on a programming trajectory at that point. Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
So what's the first radio job after university?
I went down to Sarasota, Florida, and programmed a station with Heritage call letters, WYNF. They were a rock station. It had changed frequencies a couple times, and by the time that I got to it, it was on a light bulb, like a literal light bulb that covered half the market. Yeah, and it was just on its last legs. But it gave me a real test case to not only show myself I could do something and we could reap some success out of this, but also that I could do it for the company at the time, which was Clear Channel. That I could do it on a bigger stage. And so I learned a lot in that 14 months I was there about taking nothing, absolutely nothing, and trying to make something out of it. Sure. And we were the best sounding little damn light bulb by the end of it. And I was pretty damn proud of it.
That's awesome. And so that's Sarasota. How many more times do you bounce around Florida, or when do you make the move that we end up crossing paths?
Well, like you said, 9/11 happened, and I ended up going up to a couple places to interview. I remember Panama City was on my list of places. Chattanooga was on my list of places. And then way far away, Portsmouth, New Hampshire was on my list of places. I flew up there and I did the interview, and I was like, you know what? I've been in Florida most of my life. Like, the last thing I want to do is kind of be in the South. I want to blow it all up and have a completely new challenge. I want to go to an area where I don't know a soul. I don't have a family member. I got nothing. I am dropped here. Yes,
that's a bold choice. Like,
yeah, but what I needed is a coming of age kind of thing, right? Yeah. And I was impressed with the properties. I was impressed with the people, and I knew that I was going to have a good time there, and I was going to learn to have a good time there, and we were going to make the best of it. And at the time when I got there, the particular station I worked on, WHUB at the time, was one of those stations with a heritage following, but again, had kind of fallen on hard times. Beyond the morning show, it was kind of So, my goal was to kind of use that formula that I put together in Sarasota and blueprint that in Portsmouth, and it worked, and it worked really well. And I will say that the years I was there, from late 2001 to mid 2004, I had the best time there, and I had the most success I ever had in radio at that station. I love that time there.
Yeah, we had a blast. I mean, that was when at that building in Portsmouth, there were 4 stations. Everything was live 24 hours. If you went into the building at any point in time, there were at least 4 live jocks, right? And that was the game changer, because
it really attracted me to that. And not only like I mean, and the difference in formats too. Like you round the corner from my rock station, and then we got the Uncha Uncha WERZ dance station where you're at.
Dance station.
Dance.
It was never a dance station. That was the moniker they used to throw on it. Yes, we were the dance station down the hallway. Yep.
No, you weren't a dancer, but it was great. We all got along because what did I do when I got off of work at 7? I went down to the dance station and hung out with the dance kids.
Yes,
and,
the top 40 kids. Yeah,
that's
awesome. We hung out and we got food and whatever, and it was just kind of down the street. I could come and go. Like the whole lifestyle was great. So that's what I really
clubhouse. It was a clubhouse. Yeah, it was awesome.
It was a clubhouse between multiple radio stations and people from all different walks of life, and that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, it was a really good time. So you go to a couple of other stations and then you go west, young man, right? So what year is that you head out to I'm not going to call it what the Anchorman calls it, but yes, San Diego. The Germans have a name for it. Yes.
Well, that was many years later in 2014, and between WHEB and San Diego, a lot of steps happened, and we had failing economies. I had career change twice. We had businesses that were going through rapid change, technology, adaptation at an unprecedented rate. We had a lot of things going on, so there were quite a few steps between there and getting
Well, yeah, and that reminds me, because you got involved, and for lack of a better term, correct me, I'll be wrong, I'm sure, and my wife has those shirts. And Alex loves my wife, so yes, she's the better half of me. I bought her the domain, which this will not shock you because you've been in the vehicle with me on the West Coast when I've been buying domains overnight. I bought Janina the domain timiswrong.com.
That's good.
We have to print the shirts and make sure that everybody gets their own size and their own color. That being said, would you call the company you were working with, the marketing company you were working with out here before you went to San Diego, would you call that guerrilla marketing, or what's the word for it?
Yeah, it's under a broad umbrella term called experiential, which can include guerrilla, it can include events, it can include digital, it can include a lot of different things. The main focus is that it's people interacting with brands they support, brands they're interested in, brands they align with, brands that support a specific cause that they may be interested in. And we did these events all over the country. And from a period from about 2010 to about 2016, I was doing these events everywhere. And it was quite the thrill. I got to work with some really cool people, really cool brands, created some really cool events.
Didn't you at one point were you guys, I'm going to be wrong, was it New York or Vegas that you had the brackets for college basketball on the side of the building? Like lit up on the side of the building?
We did one of those in LA. And that was a bracket that was 4 stories high, like a, what is the most iconic piece of imagery when you can think of the NCAA tournament that comes to mind, right? Everybody fills out a bracket.
Yeah.
So our goal was to create the biggest bracket and update it in real time and have events going on around it. Yeah. We had shoot-arounds, we had college bands coming in and playing, all this to kind of drum up noise and attention for the tournament to get people to fill out that bracket, because that's how they became invested in the tournament. So we did a few of those. We did one in New York, we did one in Chicago, we did one in Atlanta. But the LA one was the biggest one by far. We did that one right on Hollywood Boulevard. You did something really,
imaginative. The one in South Carolina, wasn't there something with, was it the
yeah. So we did, I worked a program with Procter & Gamble for Bounce, the dryer sheets. And, usually when you do programs,
Erin's taking notes. Go ahead.
I know. Yes. I'm like, what?
Usually when you do events, you're giving something away, right? Sure. You're giving away a sample or a collectible or something. Yeah. For that program, we were giving away hugs. And this was before COVID. So that was all.
Nobody wants that campaign right now.
No. But back then, so we actually had groups of people with orange t-shirts on, and we washed those shirts with probably a box of Bounce each, so that they smelled like Bounce like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And we just went around town saying, "Can I give you a hug? and people were like, yeah, sure. And then we captured
Nice.
we captured those moments on video, and we made a whole digital campaign out of it, which was great because it was very spur of the moment, very authentic.
Yep.
We went to, the idea is just to like plus up mundane places, like everyday places, like going to the mall or going to the grocery store or having to run an errand, or it's a rainy day. Like one of the days in South Carolina, we were in Charleston, it poured rain.
Yep.
And so like it was kind of gloomy, it was fall, and we were like, hey, can we give you a hug?
Well, and you have to imagine
time.
Yeah, and anybody that was getting hugged by somebody in a a safety orange t-shirt that smells like bounce, that is ingrained in their head for the rest of their life. Like they're never going to look at that brand and never forget that moment.
Right. And that was a nice, thick, warm cotton t-shirt, and it just was like, just felt the love right there.
Hug from
Alex. And
Alex.
smelled it.
Yes.
And right? Like that whole aroma, memory piece in your brain, right?
Yeah, we actually had, that's funny because, when we shipped these shirts, we vacuum sealed them, so that they were already washed, and they were just like baking in that bounce fresh scent.
The bounciness.
And I remember, and I remember we had to recharge these shirts like every day. So we had to find a laundromat, like a wash and like a fluff and fold, and basically say, I've got hundreds of these shirts. I need you to use one of these boxes per shirt. And they're like, what?
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good time. A lot of fun.
So what brings you, what was the final decision maker to go from the East Coast with that marketing firm to go out West? What was the driver behind that? Was it an opportunity, or I want fish tacos and sunsets? Like, what was it for you?
All the above, really. I think in a lot of the ways that was similar to the move that I made to Portsmouth. I think it was time to find a new opportunity and kind of start from scratch again. Just get dropped in a place where I only knew one person, so it was one's more than none the last time. But
you're in a big advantage.
Yeah. But get dropped in a place and kind of with a great opportunity and start over again. I think as much as I loved being in New Hampshire, all the things I did and all the great people I met, I lived all of my adult life there, basically everything since college. It was time for a fresh challenge. I just felt as though that if I had stayed there, nothing was really going to advance career-wise. And in order to do that, I had to make a move. And so, in loving being behind the mic, I mean, the marketing gig was great, and we created some fantastic events, and we really met some great people. But I had a desire to get back behind the microphone again, and Tim knows that, because anybody who's been in radio and who's been behind a microphone knows that that's kind of our drug, and that's where we need to be. And Tim's got a very nice microphone at which he's talking into, which I'm very jealous about right now.
You love it, buddy.
But that's my favorite microphone, by the way. And
see,
so it's,
that's my boy. That's
the microphone stuff. I have a microphone, but it's at my office, and I'm not there right now. So, but Tim is like, he knows all about all the stuff, and I kind of glaze over like that. You guys like all the gear.
Yeah, we go full dork on the gear.
Yeah,
we go full dork
gear heads.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to be back behind that microphone again. So I got into sports. I did sports PA for Gator tennis in college, kind of as beer money. It was really, it paid really well for a college student. You got to go work in one of the top athletic departments in the country.
Yeah.
It was literally across the street from the radio station. So like everything on that corner was my life between sports and radio.
Yeah.
And it was always something that kind of got stuck in the back of my head. And after I left radio, just because of business circumstances and being laid off twice in 3 years, I just was kind of done with the corporate angle of it. But that desire to be behind a microphone never left. So I started filling in, doing basketball games at Southern New Hampshire University. Go Penmen.
Yeah.
I always have a special place for the Penmen.
Yeah.
And then I latched on with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats and did PA at it's Northeast Delta, or maybe just Delta Dental.
Delta Dental, yeah.
The Molar, as we like to call it.
Yeah, the Molar, yeah.
So anyway, I had done baseball there for 6 seasons, and with that came some opportunities. I was a finalist for the gig at Wrigley Field. Through an audition process. I filled in at Fenway Park as part of an audition process, and the San Diego one came up, and I was getting really, really close again on getting this opportunity. I'm like, man, if it happens, I gotta go. Who else decides to like up and move for a seasonal part-time opportunity? But
Alex does, damn it.
I do. Like, damn that mortgage. And I'm talking, and you guys are real estate people. No, I'm kidding.
You're just gonna figure it out. You just figure it out. Yeah.
Exactly. I just figured it out. I've always figured it out before. I'm going to figure it out again.
Yep.
2020, I'm still figuring it out.
Yep.
But just having confidence and betting on yourself that this is really the right thing at the right time, and I'm going to find a way to make this work. And that's how I got this to San Diego and how I got to the major leagues doing what I'm doing.
So that you do that audition, do you go out there for that?
Yeah, I flew out there. You could have done it via MP3, but as you know, it's like you either mail in a resume or you go and show up on their doorstep, and you show up on their doorstep. And when I showed up on their doorstep, there were 800 other people at that same doorstep that same day.
Wow.
So we all read the same script, and I did it. I walked off, and I got a call. Actually, it's funny because they said, well, if we like you, we'll call you on Monday. And Monday went by and it was 6:30 in the evening. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not getting a call. Like, what?
How dare you?
How dare you not give me a call? I really thought I did well.
Yeah.
And I was starting to get angry. And then the phone rang, and then I forgot, like, oh, it's Pacific time. It's only 3:30. So it's not the end of the day.
That's great.
That's amazing. That's
so all of it worked out. I flew back out here a couple times. I did opening day. I did another game after that, and they finally said, like, yeah, it's yours to keep, and you work tomorrow if you want the job. And I said, okay, let's go. I've not only stepped my toe in the water, the water is up to here at this point. So
and then back to the earlier conversation, you get the batting order for the first game, and how many Latino names did you have to figure out overnight?
It wasn't too bad, and I was gonna play it safe until I got it right. The last thing I was going to do was go for something that I didn't have yet.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well,
you were going to say Galarraga until you got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was like, I'll go with the commonly accepted pronunciations of these names until I develop the flair for them. And that's not something that happened overnight either. That's something that evolves over a series of years, really. Yeah. If you listen to the tapes from, games from 2014 and put them against what I just did, 2 or 3 weeks ago, completely different. Completely different.
That's awesome. So that gets you into a position where you had an all-star game, which was super cool.
Yes.
Above and beyond that, I want to talk about what just happened, because like Janina was asking me and I was like hyper confused. And I was trying to explain to Aaron, I'm like, well, he's doing games for other teams at Petco, which I hadn't, because here, I'll raise my hand, Red Sox fan. I was out of baseball interest months ago. That being said, what happened in the last few weeks? What were you doing at Petco in the last few weeks with these games?
So we did a shortened 60-game season, as you know, and all those games were at home. We played regional divisions, not a lot of cross-country stuff. I think the farthest we went was Texas and up to Seattle. And then we made the playoffs this year for the first time since 2006, which was
the brown uniforms, man. You brought back the right unis.
If we'd known that it's all it took, we should have done it years ago. No, we just really had a solid young talent base to get it done. But so we made the playoffs, and then Major League Baseball decided that in order to have a safe conclusion to the remainder of the season, they were going to do the bubble effect for the postseason. And so they picked 2 locales, Arlington, Texas, and San Diego, to host all of the rounds of the American League and the National League. Dodger Stadium got a few games. They got one of the division series, and Houston got a division series as well, but most of it took place in the San Diego and Arlington ballparks.
Okay. And then and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe I heard that they use the audio from MLB The Show for crowd noise at
They
most of
did,
the
yeah.
ballparks. Is that a
Yeah,
thing?
they did that for the entire regular season. Yeah. So MLB issued iPads with a bunch of sound effects from the game. And basically we hooked that up to the sound system, and we had an engineer who was specifically in charge of creating a crowd atmosphere within the ballpark. And where else are you going to get baseball crowd noises, or at least that amount in a short amount of time? And
that well produced, right?
Yeah, because the producers of MLB The Show, the video game, go to ballparks to get audio and collect these sounds. So they're authentic to begin with. So if there is a library of authentic material to be had, they would have it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we decided to use their crowd noises for the game. And they're a great partner for Major League Baseball. I mean, that is the premier flagship game for the sport, and has been the premier flagship game for quite a number of years.
Yeah, that's like that. I joked with you. That is the only reason my household really has a PS4. I mean, there's other good stuff, but like that's the game, because they are the premier game. So that brings us to the part of your story where I think we're sitting in Vegas a couple of years ago. You're like, hey, it's about to be a thing. It's not a thing yet, but I got something to tell you, and I know you'll be excited because you and your boys are gamers. So how did this opportunity, which I'll let you tell the story, how does this happen? Are they literally listening to everybody at all the ballparks, deciding who they're going to talk to?
Well, Sony San Diego is the group that produces MLB The Show, and it has produced. They have a massive complex here in San Diego with thousands of people who work on this game. The level of involvement is mind-blowing. I work with like 2 or 3 people who are very small cogs in a very big machine for this game. That's how much effort gets put into this game, and that's why it's as authentic as it is, really. So anyway, I'm literally at the gym one day, and
flex. Just give us a flex. Give us the.
Oh, it's bad. It's COVID flex. It's kind of like
COVID flex.
I haven't. Gyms are closed out here still, so it's not good.
I was in the gym grabbing a steam. Yes.
Yes. Yes. With all my buddies. Sauna or sauna?
Sauna.
Anyway, so I'm at the gym, and they just reached out of the blue, and they're like, hey, we'd love to talk to you. You know, we're thinking about bringing on a new voice for the game this year. We'd love to talk to you. I said, well, yeah. So I went in and met with them, and they're, lo and behold, they're giving me this tour, and I'm giving them samples, voice samples for the game and stuff. And they're putting it with players and intros and stuff. And they're like, oh, by the way, this isn't an interview. We'd like to have you. And it's like the first time in my life where everybody's like, reached out to me and said like,
here you go.
Yeah, here's an opportunity. Like, as Tim knows, like we work in the media business. It's tough. You bust your butt for every opportunity that you have. And to have an opportunity kind of land on your plate, somebody who wants you to be a part of something. Yeah. That is pretty cool. And I was just like, kind of gaga. Yeah.
And the fact that it's San Diego, and I don't know, I doubt, because they've got a pretty good budget. It's not like they're like, well, he's pretty good and he's close. Like that was so serendipitous for you that like, I can just drive over there or walk over there or whatever, right? The fact that it was right in town is hyper amazing. And what does that agreement look like? Like, I remember you telling me it was for a handful of years. Is that, we have a few more years on that bad boy?
Yeah, well, I think I told you a handful of years ago. So we're going to be going into MLB The Show 21, which will be the 3rd game I've done. So
that's awesome.
Wow.
So the whole thing was very serendipitous. It's like they liked me, I liked them. They liked the way I sounded. That's the sound. That's the type of sound they wanted to add to their game. I happen to be close by. This is all going to work out. Like,
I enjoy digital entertainment and money, so everybody's getting along. It's all good.
And baseball.
What does that process look like? Because when people don't realize, like, for Aaron and I to be walking past our kids' television and we hear that voice on that game, and and it's all where they ultimately stitch together, right?
Yeah.
Like all the names, everything. So you're not going in and saying, I keep using this name because it's the only one that I can almost pronounce, like Andres Galarraga. Like when you're going in to say that, and you'd say it much better. We're going to make you say it soon.
Sure.
Like you're saying you wouldn't say Aaron McLaughlin. You're saying Aaron, and you're saying all the first names. Then you're saying all the last names, and then they stitch it together when she comes up to bat. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when I usually say like a full sentence of what you hear in the game is probably 6 or 7 different parts stitched together. And that is from, now batting for the blank team, number so-and-so, position so-and-so, first name, last name, all those pieces are strung together in the game, which makes it a challenge when you go to read them, because you have to remember while you're doing all those pieces. Inflection has to stay the same, and in your head when you're doing that, to make it sound good when it comes together, you're like, man, I sound so monotonous. Like this, I should change this up, and like, no, you should not change it up because it won't work. And so that's a mental training that is something new that I had to learn. Like when we cut scripts in radio, you're reading it verbatim. There's rarely any stuff being shifted around. This is like a giant game of Mad Libs that gets put together on a digital random algorithm type basis.
I had no idea that's how that worked.
Yeah. So, and then think about the situations too, like there's going to be a substitution and incoming so-and-so, and now in left field. And then I read the line score at the end of the game, for the Houston Astros, it was 9 hits on, or 9 runs on 11 hits. They left 4 men on base. So like we had all of these, and then I remember too, like if you get enough strikeouts in the game, like at some point they stop counting, right? Whether that's like 40 strikeouts or whatever. And it's like, he had a whole lot of strikeouts, so it's kind of like, it just stops at some point. So there's some fun stuff in there too. If you like, let the game sit. I tell people to get off their phones and pay attention to the game. There's all kinds of little Easter eggs that are in the game if people get into it and kind of play around with it quite a bit. It's fun.
Yeah. So if I don't pause the game and I'm texting my friend and my controller's on my lap and I'm supposed to be pitching, it's going to say to me like, "Are you still awake?" Yeah. And so it'll do that. And some of them will be like legit, like, fresh popcorn's available at our, third base concession stand. And then some of them are like, "You behind the front row, please, stop texting or we'll ask you to leave," that kind of thing. Funny. Yeah. So there's fun stuff. There's fun stuff in there. What would you consider, like, what do you think, best guess, you probably know, because you had to build them. God bless you. What does that look like? How many hours total?
I want to say it was about, to do the first game, because we had to do everything from the top down, right? It was probably about 60 hours of straight reading. So like, and I mean from stepping in, being on the clock, mic opens, we do 2-hour session or whatever, clock stops, go, see you in a couple days, come back, in the booth, 2 hours, read, stop. This year, now that we built a lot of the framework in, was about, I want to say like 30 to 40. And I think that'll probably continue because this year we had to add minor league players. So we had AA and AAA players also included in the game. So it was a whole new roster of names we had to read. We had a few more creative player names. There were a couple new modes that we added in. And so as the game evolves, over a series of years, those things will change also. So that'll be the bulk of it, is new stuff from that point going forward.
So when now that it's over, and so far as the season's done, because your commitment to Petco Park for the season is over.
Is over, yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? What do you do for them as the guy? Because part of the experience of going to the ballpark is like, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Fenway Park, and like all that stuff. Because when I'm at the park, the experience is your voice, right?
Yeah.
I'm not hearing, and to go back to the video game, who is it? Matt Viskersian, and I don't know who's doing the booth stuff.
Zero, yeah. Okay. Heidi's in the game now.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, Dan Plesak's in the game. So yeah, there's quite a few people in there.
So they must. Do you have fans that want you to, like, if there's a wedding, do you have fans that ask you to be there to make announcements if they're getting married at the park? Like, what are you doing in the off season as an employee of the Padres in that regard?
Well, normally it switches to a special events role, whether it's concerts or fan fests, corporate gigs. Usually we get a lot of, they rent out the field for private dinners, private shows, that kind of thing.
Batting practice.
That's one too.
Yeah.
Member batting practice. So it's a lot of those type of events, but now there's kind of a giant question mark with COVID and local regulations. And so I don't have an answer to that because it's still changing by the day.
Sure.
So it's very strange. Usually there's an expectation, and not only did we get a late start to this year, but we had a late ending, which was very cool. Playoffs and everything. But now, like, okay, so what's this next part hold? And it's very different. It's kind of like, we have a new environment. What opportunities does that new environment bring, as opposed to the opportunities that we always thought were just given to us,
Right.
So for, like, Aaron and I were on the East Coast, and in beautiful downtown New Hampshire, the numbers are arguably heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So I think our lifestyle may change again. What has it been for San Diego? And I know California has been pretty locked down. What's day to day for you right now? Like, what is open, what's closed? What's the experience right now? Just the lifestyle.
Well, we're lucky to live in a beautiful area where it's nice to sit outdoors and eat. So that's actually been somewhat of a treat. They've allowed restaurants to build out front patios into the street. Basically, they close down streets, or they close down parking so that restaurants can extend their patios. That's kind of nice, actually.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that part, and I hope a lot of that stays.
Yeah.
Indoor dining is still touch and go. It's here right now. There's a threat that it goes away next week. Mask enforcement is still a thing, both outdoors and indoors. Restricted hours on a lot of stuff. Restaurants close early, malls close early. So it's still very much touch and go out here. And so just keeping an eye on the news and trying to figure out what's new that day, but still going about our lives, because, we have to do stuff. We have to get things done. So
yes, there's that. Yeah.
Can I just rewind you a little? So did you just say you have a mask order for outside?
Yeah. California has had mandatory mask wearing for quite some time, so including outdoors.
So that's really interesting. Yeah, because we live in New Hampshire, so live or die state. Yeah. People like to challenge that motto.
Yeah.
And
I was there. I know.
Right, like helmets and but like that, I can't even imagine. So just if you're outdoors, like in your own yard, do you have to wear a mask?
No, just public settings. Like if you're on a public street, or if you're exercising.
He's at the gym catching a steam. Yeah.
Yes. Sauna's bad for
in the
sauna. Yeah. If you're exercising, you're allowed to pull it down, as long as you're avoiding people, that kind of thing.
Interesting.
But if you're in any place public, if you're sitting out at the beach and you're on a blanket, as long as, again, you're confined to your space and you give enough social distance to the people around you or next to you, it's still okay. It's mostly like an in-transit kind of thing. Right?
Yeah,
So
got it.
like from here to there, that kind of thing. So I've gotten used to it. I honestly, like with my things, it's like car keys, wallet,
mask.
Yeah. Phone, cell phone, hat.
You got to find the ones that fit and feel comfortable, right? Like I think I have 2 daughters and they both have very different shapes to their face. I know it sounds silly, but they can't wear the same mask.
No.
So I do think that's a huge part of it, is just, accepting that it is important and we have to do it, right? And then find something that fits comfortably so you'll wear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with any of these things if it helps us get back to a routine that we expect. You know, like I want fans in the ballpark as soon as possible, but I don't want to do it in an environment that's risky for some groups of people. I mean, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, TV viewership for baseball was very high this year, in some case record numbers. I know for us regionally, we had a great year on television in San Diego, and so people were just watching it in different ways.
You got Dandy Don Orsillo down there, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I love
That's
Dandy
awesome.
Don Tangelo, awesome. Don Diego, like he gives himself a lot of names.
Don Tangelo.
Yeah. But you know, they were enjoying it in different ways. It's not the ballpark experience, but we have to get through A in order to get to B, and so that's the way I look at it, and I'm completely fine with that. Completely fine with that.
Yeah. How much does that affect your you know, when you feel like you're talking to, and I'm going to be wrong on the number here, what is it, 40,000 at Petco?
Yeah, it's about right. 40, 41 sellout, something around there. Yeah.
Such a great ballpark. Can't wait till the humans can get on planes. Well, I could get on a plane, but I'd be going out to, you know, not see you because I'd be sleeping in the street with a mask on because, you know. Anyway,
I have a nice couch.
I love that. See, he offered me the couch. Got the offer right away.
Yeah.
How weird was it for you to be announcing to no one? I mean, yes, the team is there, and yes, there's a lot of staffers there, and you've got all that stuff going on, but you're shy about 39,500 people. How weird was that experience? And honestly, did it adjust? I mean, from a technical standpoint, here we go, Aaron dorking out. You can just like,
I know,
over now. How much did you adjust like the sound system? Did you guys keep it at the same level? Or was it not needed because it's not bouncing off humans and it is bouncing off chairs and that changes the acoustics?
Well, yeah, the echo is strange. You know, people always ask me, wow, you must be really nervous to announce to 40,000 people. And I say, no, that's the easiest. It's an empty room. That's the worst thing to announce to. I mean, it's like a stand-up comedian, right? He doesn't want to tell jokes to no audience. It just doesn't work.
Just flew in from Cleveland. Boy, are my arms tired. Yeah.
Right. And then
nothing.
Yes, the golf clap. Yeah.
Yes. So it was strange because everything that I do is based off, one, the action on the field, and two, the crowd response. I had the action on the field, but I didn't have the crowd response. So I had to learn how to react to that in a setting that was very, very strange. Yeah. The crowd noise sound effects helped a lot, but they reacted off of me. I didn't react off of them.
Oh, I was going to ask. Yeah. So who's the wizard that was in charge of that?
Yeah, so he was going off of me. So these cues are backwards. Okay. So that part took some getting used to. Luckily, you know, we did the spring training 2.0 or summer camp as we build it. So we had a chance to kind of work through that and see how that was going to sound and how that was going to not only sound from a presentation standpoint, but how it would sound in the ballpark with no fans. And some, you know, we changed the dynamics a little bit. So some speakers are on, some speakers are off. So we have the ability to focus based on, you know, where people are in the ballpark, either strictly on the field if there's an event, or completely in the stands because we don't want the players to be distracted or whatever. So, you know, we were able to kind of move that around a little bit. And I leave that to the sound engineers. They get mad at me because I keep saying louder, because I always want it louder. You know, to me, loud is energy. It's a party. I come from rock radio, you know, turn it up to 11. Yep. That's where I'm at. So I'm 43 years old. I'll be deaf in 2 years, whatever. It's all worth it. You know, so that's kind of like my perspective on it. But, you know, I let the sound engineers do what they do. And I'm just figuring out from a presentation standpoint, like, how's this going to work? You know, and we did figure it out, and it did work out great. And you know what? I didn't take my foot off the gas in any way, because I know the players had a specific expectation for the way that ballpark needed to sound for them to perform at their best. And also, you know, some of my stuff went across TV, whether that was opening day presentations or lineups. And then in the background, because field mics are on the whole time, so they're capturing the action. And for people at home, I don't want anything to sound any different, you know? Right. So especially if they can't be there. I don't want to give an environment that they wouldn't be expecting. So I didn't take my foot off the gas in any way. To me, it was just a reverse order, but it was still the same level of enthusiasm and effort. And that was true for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That's great.
So the Padres are parked for the season. You may or may not have a few events here and there. You've done all your work for MLB The Show when would you go back into the studio to cut next year's game?
It's usually like late this year.
Okay.
My parts are usually some of the last to lay down because they have to put in all the other modes and determine what they need and, so on and so forth. So I'm usually one of the last. I did an update earlier this year, like the game had already been released and we're like, we're going to update a few player names.
They can send a patch. Yeah.
I did it from home. Yeah. I did it from my closet. They loved it. So.
The sound closet. Yeah.
Sound closet. Don't mind these suits,
with the foam egg crates. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, two things. Curious minds want to know. All the ladies want to know. Is 43-year-old Alex single? What is he doing in his spare time in between baseball and now that the show is done? What is the other side hustle? What's your business that you're doing the rest of the year?
Well, I'm not single. Well,
I knew that. I just wanted to, I wanted to make
yes,
on the spot. Yes.
For almost 2 years. She's fantastic. She's smart. She keeps me on my toes. Her. Yeah. She gives me structure. Otherwise, Alex wanders,
Yeah.
Shiny object. And I'm, as far as like the rest of the time until we go back into the studio and go back into the stadium and start doing baseball again. I do own a marketing agency that does digital marketing, specifically inbound marketing. So basically we create content, we promote the content, we drive traffic to the site, hopefully create leads, and then sell whatever product we're selling. So it gives me a little bit of dabbling back into that strategy world that radio gave me, being able to create campaigns and attract, as opposed to listeners, attract fans of brands, create fans, become experts on what it is we're promoting, and that kind of thing. So that's what I dabble in on my side time, I guess. That's the side hustle, so to speak. Yeah. Sure. I don't know. It's a big pot of everything. Like I told you, special events, Tim. Like I was flying to Vegas and we were doing concerts and CES and all this other stuff, and all that's very much up in the air. So a lot of that's transitioning to the digital space, and that's probably where I'll be living.
So, and now in beautiful downtown Florida, how often do you get back to see your folks? Are you driving?
Well, I went back. I was lucky enough to go back this year. I spent 2 weeks there, which was the longest I've spent there in quite some time. Little did I know what was going to transpire. Yeah. I'm certainly glad I did.
Sure.
We've been in a little bit of a touch and go since then, obviously. I don't want to be a risk to my family by flying and coming back and coming from a different state. And although I've been perfectly healthy and everything's been good on the up and up, and I've taken the precautions, it's still a risk I haven't really wanted to take.
Sure.
So my parents are learning FaceTime and
I
think we're still working on email, and we jumped to FaceTime.
Last time we spoke, I saw Mom's left ear and all of Dad's nose hair. It was great.
Oh, she puts it down and she talks like straight.
Yeah. Mom, I'm looking at the ceiling. Mom.
Yes.
Mom.
Yeah. So I see half a head and her chin posted.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
And so we're getting baby steps. And I think I'm gonna, I think just because of holiday traffic, I'm gonna wait till after the holidays and do a January run and maybe be able to spend some more time there.
Sure.
Especially based on the schedule. Kind of being up in the air. So that is the goal. And my girlfriend has a heavy holiday season, so it'd be better for her too. So
in all of this, what would you say for you has been, what's the thing that you miss the most from the good old days, from ordinary time before COVID? What do you miss the most?
Interaction, just social interaction, social interaction with a lot of people I haven't met, like even when I step out of the press box and walk on the concourse, people come up to me and just strike up a baseball conversation or something. And it's just little moments like that. It's funny because I was talking to one of the reps from MLB who was in town for the playoffs, and I just thanked him for having a baseball conversation with me, because that's something that I've lacked all year. Just a straight up like, what do you think of this guy, or how do you think this guy's developing, or holy crap, that play, that throw from third to first was incredible, and so that's kind of what I miss. Just talk. Like, it's almost like bar talk, right? Just sitting, being able to pony up and having a random conversation with a random person about things that you find fun and common, and that's probably what I miss the most. Hey, I've gotten a lot of quality time in with my girlfriend and her family. And that's actually been great. We've learned to do a bunch of new stuff together, but I think that a random social interaction is something that I miss. I'm a people person. I like talking to people. So.
Well, what's funny is you're putting words to something that I have felt too. This idea of the random, like, I love talking to strangers, right?
Yeah.
And so I completely feel you on that. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like putting a light bulb in my head of one of the things that I've been missing myself too. So
yeah, and I'm like this year, for example, generally, like, I'll go grab a beer after work. There's a brewery next door, to Petco Park, and we'll go over there and grab a brew. And it's like, the game is done, the sound effects come down, the lights go out, and it's like, oh, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Crickets. And it's like, that's like, oh, like, I just miss that,
Yeah.
And it's not only a chance to like blow off a little steam, especially if we had a big night, or whatever, but it's just that little bit of interaction that I miss. Technology is great and it's a good void filler, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because for Aaron and I and what we do, I'd say before all of this hit, we were meeting with our clients probably 40% online because of the footprint of our company, and 60% in person in the office. And that's now 1,000% online. I mean, I've had more people coming into the office. I determined that because of the way I'm wired, I require a heartbeat within proximity, right? Like I need a human in the room because we're so connected. Everybody's so connected. We are. And I think that the blessing of this for a lot of companies and ours as well is we've put into play some, as I call it, some of this paste is not going back in the tube.
Yeah.
There are efficiencies we've created that will ride alongside of the brick and mortar in-person experience for the rest of forever. At the same time, I love that you said that, because when you run into somebody right now, the number one, if Steve Harvey was here with 2 pocket squares, the number one answer on the board is that the first thing they're going to say is, what about this COVID? What do you think? That, like, it's always the first topic.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to hit the concourse and be like, man, that hit, or like, to your point, like just a real conversation about real stuff that we used to talk about.
Right.
And
it's just kind of meaningless fun. It's not so serious, it's just, that's kind of what I miss. So these are all important topics. I'm not saying that we shouldn't discuss COVID and other important topics, but I just miss that mindless interaction, that kind of that random thought, like, oh, we're put on this earth and here we are bumping into each other. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, even your bounce campaign, like I keep thinking like, oh my gosh, I would sign up to do that right now. Give me a t-shirt filled with bounce and I will go hug strangers.
I'll be the head hugger.
I would love to do that, right? Like
verboten.
Yeah. So Aaron knows that I have a deep-seated love for Route 1 North, Kowloon, and out west, Alex brought us to a place when we were out visiting, and our other friend Chris. It's called the Valley High. Did I get it right?
Valley High, yes.
The Valley High, which is picture like, it's open air, right? I feel like everything out there is
more or less. It's this Polynesian like circular restaurant with windows all the way around, and they have balconies and stuff, and it's focused on downtown San Diego and the Bay, so it's an exquisite view.
If you've never been to San Diego, you're doing it wrong. Get there as soon as it's safe to travel.
They are open. I've been. They are open.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
So I believe you told me, and I didn't dip in for part 2. I believe you told me that their Mai Tais it's a 2 Mai Tai limit, right?
It's a 2 Mai Tai limit because there's no fruit juice. It's just liquor and a piece of pineapple, basically.
So we're sitting
So
at the table. Picture all of the radio jackasses sitting at this big long table. Alex and Chris are over the moon that we're all about to go sterile. Like if you have a friend who still intends to have children, don't let him drink this drink, right? Because you will be sterilized after you finish. And
I've warned my girlfriend about this. I'm like, there is a high probability thanks to that.
And the guy's pouring the bottles, and all he has is light rum and dark rum. Yeah. To Alex's point, there's no nothing else.
Yeah,
and they
shaved ice.
Yeah,
that's it.
They chuck a lime and a cherry in there to knock down the scurvy, I guess, And he marches it over. I took one sip, and I think everybody who knows me knows I love Mai Tais. This was just jet fuel. Fuel.
I think you called it motor oil or gasoline.
It was motor oil. So they're open and they're serving the general public. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm happy the Valley High has not been knocked down by COVID.
That's what I was going to say. Mai Tai is here.
Yeah. Well, nothing wards off disease like straight alcohol. So
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's comes highly recommended for sure. And then the other place that you took me, the Crack Shack.
Yes.
Which is amazing. It sounds like Erin's like, please finish this sentence. There's a massive.
I'm like, what do you get there?
There's a massive chicken in the outdoor space. And they're really it's nuggets and tenders and
just like over the top presentations on chicken, basically chicken sandwiches and chicken items. They do
chicken presentation.
Yes.
Okay.
It's amazing.
It's a Richard Blaze concept. He started here with it, and he's since marched it around the country. There's one that opened in Vegas. So
all right,
it's getting around. Yeah.
Cool.
Love it.
We have made the Crack Shack famous.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can you give us? So I want you to go deep down the Latino batting order. I want you to give me your best now batting on the current team, an old team.
I'll give you. You know what?
Fernando Valenzuela. I don't know what you want to do, but we gotta end it with that. Give us your deep dark baseball announcement.
Okay, well, I can do well. Our signature player is Fernando Tatis Jr., and that's probably the one I'm most known for.
Oh, because there's a flair. There's a personal flair.
It's dramatic. So I would say like the shortstop, number 23, Fernando Tatis Jr. So it's the pause. People love the pause because they're like, wait for it.
Wait for it.
Yeah.
So what's really funny, and like I think people assume that when you're in radio, because when you and I were doing broadcast radio, it was you get on and you talk. Now, yes, to your point, your inflection, your intonation has to match the music.
Sure. Right?
So we always joke though, like, and I joke here, like, good morning, the skies.
Everybody. Yeah.
Like that whole morning show, predictable, stereotypical yucking. We call it yucking in radio, right? And so obviously when you're doing the baseball announcements, you go into that baseball mode. I wouldn't call it yucking, but I would call it delivering.
It's flair. It's you know what? A lot of times I would say like, I want to present like a Vegas fight, like a prize fight.
Yes.
So ultimately, in my mind, you have one guy who's stepping out there to face one opponent, the pitcher.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen in any other team sport where it's a 1v1 moment, and it happens countless times a baseball game. So to me, that's like sending a prize fighter to the ring, right? And so that's always how I've tried to do it with keeping in mind I don't want to yuck it up and I don't want to be corny about it. And I think that's why that I don't do it for every player. I think a player kind of has to earn it over time, and not just by the style of play or how well they play, but fan acceptance of them, fan favorites. These things happen. So, Fernando Tatis Jr. has been a sensation in baseball. He's on SportsCenter a lot. He's going to be one of the future faces of not just the Padres, but of this game.
MLB,
So he needs that introduction. Manny Machado needs that introduction.
Yeah.
So that's how I that's how I think of it when I go to do these presentations. I don't try to be a yucker, because believe me, that is something we joke about. It's also one of my greatest fears, because I don't want to be that guy.
Well, at the same time too, I wonder how many people end up finally meeting you on the concourse and like, oh, I didn't picture that at all.
Oh,
Right?
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, all the time. And that's true for anybody who's behind a microphone. I think they just suspect big voice, big guy. And I'm, you know, yeah, I'm tall, but I'm slender, you know. You know,
he takes a great steam at the gym. Yes.
Yes. Well, you know, I'm a little less slender nowadays, but I'm still slender nonetheless.
You put on the COVID-19. I don't feel like you put on the COVID-19. I don't believe you.
I put on the COVID-10.
Yeah.
At least it's better than it's better than the ballpark food 20 that I used to put on.
Oh.
So yeah.
What is it? So we'll wrap with that, since we're most of us on the East Coast are heading to dinner. What is the soup du jour? Does that rotate for you? Like, are they bringing you food, or do you not do that? Do you feel like that's
well, it used to be like, you know, very cafeteria style, and we would sit down with the press people and the media people, and we'd all have this one room, and you know, we'd eat and throw around Hayes and how you doings, and what do you think of this guy, and all that kind of stuff. And obviously verboten now, so we order meals in advance, and then we just go pick them up and go back to our little places, and you know, we eat them and
hermetically sealed.
Terrific.
Yes, by ourselves in my little glass cube.
In your closet. You eat your lunch in your closet.
Yeah, you know, that was one thing too. During the course of the season, usually I'm in the room with the rest of the control people running sound, people running video, people running replay. And this year I was by myself, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool, but again, I miss the interaction. I like when I work in baseball, I want it to be like the floor of the stock market. I want people yelling out, throwing papers, being upset, loving life when we do a walk-off home run. I want all of that energy, because that helps to fuel me. And it was like, you know, just me, microphone room, hello.
Hello.
That's it.
Welcome to Petco Park
in 2020. Yeah.
Awesome.
2020. Yeah.
Awesome.
But I had a great time this year. We had for a shortened season, I got to experience my first Major League Baseball postseason. I got to send a team to the World Series. And I, you know, there were a lot of firsts, even though we missed a lot of other stuff. Yeah. So, you know, I walk away with a great sense of satisfaction that we did our jobs well, and we got to do a bunch of cool stuff anyway. So.
And you got even more exposure because, you know, the way they bubbled teams to Petco Park, and you got to do that American League stuff.
Yeah, that was great. I never thought that I would be the home announcer for the New York Yankees out of all things. Oh,
boy.
Or the Houston Astros.
Yeah,
of all things.
You had to shower with a wired brush after that one.
Yeah, and I did Mariners and our team and the Rays. So like I was the home announcer for 5 different clubs this year.
And that's really cool that you sent your childhood team, the Rays, you sent them off to the World Series.
Yeah, my dad's team too. Yeah. Like we always talk Rays baseball. He has the MLB package, and he watches every Rays game and then stays up for every Padres game. So I don't follow the Rays as closely as he does. Obviously, he gets the exposure, and he has the time to watch those games when I'm usually like doing prep at that time. Sure. So I can't really see it. And now I'm like, all of it's coming together. Like, now I know all the stuff you've been talking about, Dad. I get it. Yeah. I'm seeing it, and now we're on the same level. So it would be cool.
That's very cool. Awesome.
That's great.
Alex, thank you for joining us. Make sure that you keep an eye out for MLB The Show. The current version of the game that's out is 2021. Yes.
It's 20. We'll be 21.
20's out. Okay. Because they're always like a year ahead. I feel like they're always so far ahead on the dates.
It's not like Madden. We play in the same year.
Now he's picking on Madden. Here we go. Now there's going to be a fight between you and the Madden guy. It's in the game.
Yeah. I own every sports game, dude. You know me. So.
I know. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, MLB The Show with Sony Sports, and it's out of San Diego, right? What's the production house? Is it
San Diego Studios? Sony. If you really want the full name, Sony Interactive Entertainment San Diego Studios, but just San Diego Studios, fine. Yeah.
Ask for Alex. And if you're lucky enough, like my boys are, you get a signed copy, which is really cool. The boys love that. Francis, like mind blown
Yeah.
You texted me, you're like, if you haven't picked it up, I'll send you a signed copy. I'm like, they would love that. Yes. So
Yeah.
very cool.
It's really not worth anything but the $59 a game cost. But
yes,
the intrinsic value is just over the top.
And when you do get to San Diego and Petco Park and you hear the dulcet tones of Alex Miniak, then go to the Bally High and put all the Mai Tais on his tab. It's wide open.
No. They buy one for me. I want, yeah.
You want to be there, of course.
And I'll take yours since you didn't care for it. So
terrible. Oh my God. Unbelievable. Yep.
All right. Nice meeting you, Aaron.
Hey, thank you, Alex.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye.